is a computer. Internet, well, the third could be electricity, but that's readily available. So it's basically a computer and internet. If you're still a student and you have access to Wi-Fi, maybe internet is not a big problem. However, Wi-Fi means you have to be in that space. But as my mentor would tell me, he told me that it's not a computer that does, is that you move away from writing codes on a daily basis to now going to a side and just designing it. So it's not just about a computer and writing. At least as I'm learning, of course, we learn at different speeds. But personally, I used not to have the mentality of gazetting time for specifically coding because it can be boring, especially if you're just starting. So my experience as I was learning was to learn things, small things, but multiple times. What do I mean? An example could be, there are moments in your day, whatever job that you're doing. Personally, like I've said, I was pursuing my internship. Within the day, there are moments you actually have to do other things. Now, most times, go out, whatsoever. Personally, since I had a smartphone, I would use some of these small breaks and I would learn in 10 to 15 minutes. So rather than sitting down for 2 hours in the evening to study, I would use 15 minutes in the day. And that really worked for me. And that's because I was also using multimedia like videos and then also reading sometimes. So if you have a smartphone, you have no reason to wait to sit on a computer before you learn. A computer should be just a tool like I mentioned. What's important is the head. So through the day, as you're pursuing whatever you're pursuing, during your lunch break, you can actually watch a 15-minute video. Think about it through the day. When you get back home, use 10 to 15 minutes again. Try out what you learned. And if it fails, you have another day to again think about it. So make it as something pleasurable as opposed to, because some of us have trauma from school. When you think about school days, you're like, I don't want to go back to studying. So do not make it as university going to sit for exams, but do it as something you want a future in. So utilize small fragments of time to actually push forward. The third point, the mentors. Now, I was talking to someone who I was mentoring, and he also told me that same problem that other people are mentioning, you're also a culprit to causing it. What do I mean? Now, mentors, the truth is, usually if you have a good mentor, chances are he doesn't have time for you, or she doesn't have time for you. And that's because they have a lot that they're doing. So another challenge might be finding a mentor who is consistently following you up. Because the number of things that people are usually doing are so many. And the fact that you're working remotely, it means that some of your mentors might be working on 3 projects or working for 3 different companies. So he barely has time for anything else apart from his personal time and his family, maybe. So mentors are also usually a bit of a challenge to find that you can easily call them. Maybe you're having a bug or something is failing. To call them and they give you time can be a bit tricky. What is the solution? The solution is being patient and insisting. You see, it's one thing when someone calls you once for help. It's another when they call you 3 times. And every time you tell them, call me after a day, and they call back again. Now, that's a person you usually want to help. You see that this person is actually serious about what they're asking for. But someone is a mentee but calls you once and then they feel you've deserted them and they move on. Chances are high you're also going to move on, and I don't think the mentor is losing anything. It's actually the mentee that loses. So as a mentee, you should have it in your mind that you see who needs the mentor, and so you should be around to continue pursuing them. Coincidentally, the same mentor is the one who is going to get you most likely your first job. Most likely your first gig will be from your mentor. So having mentors around you and then also showing them that you're serious. Most times when I have jobs, if I'm contacted to get someone to share with, say, a company, I'll usually look at some of my mentees and look at what are they doing, how serious are they about what they're doing. So it's unlikely that you call me once a month to tell me what you're doing, and there's someone who updates me every week, and I recommend the one who gives you an update a month as opposed to the one who gives it weekly. So you want to show your mentor that you're serious about what you're doing. Ask them for what are the next steps. What should I do next after this? Show them your seriousness and your commitment. The next time he gets an opportunity that he cannot take up, he's going to call upon you. So mentors are a challenge, but they're also a blessing because they are the same people that will get you that first job, and they'll still be the ones that will put in a good word wherever you are to be able to get whatsoever job. Now, the gentleman who was supposed to take us through, I believe, is a mentor for almost all of us gathered here. And I want to believe that also in the jobs that we've landed through our careers, he has had a bit of a hand in getting us there. So networking and getting mentors is very important. You can't just sit in your house, you learn what you're learning, and you go out and you get a job. Now, there are some jobs, or there are some sites, for example, I think it's called TopTal, where you can go and sit for some papers to get a job. But the reality is, some of the questions they'll ask you in those tests and exams are not even applicable to the job that you're going to finally get. What does that mean? It means you're going to go through a round of training or learning things that are relevant to just pass a test that you're never going to utilize that knowledge. Yet with a mentor, because most times when a mentor recommends you to a certain company, it's unlikely that you're even going to go through a serious interview. Chances are they'll ask you, show us some of the work you've done. Okay, maybe you can do a thing or two, but chances are the hiring person is already having faith in the person that recommended. So I usually find it very easy. For all the jobs I've done, I don't think I've done an interview that you'd call an interview. It's really more of send us your CV, send us what are your hourly rates that you want us to pay you, and maybe negotiating the pay, but nothing about what can you actually do, show us here, write for us a program. It's never been that. So mentors are important. Because of time, let's go to the next thing. The next one that is also a challenge, I believe, is the rapidly evolving ecosystem of tech. And that has been highlighted through the conversations as we've seen. That when you look at tech, someone who last coded in 2005, if they came back to the field, chances are they'll need some time to catch up. Because 2005, what they had then is a bit different from what we have now. There are things that have rapidly changed. Today, when you tell someone that we have computer systems or programs that can write code, it might be hard to believe. That you just tell them, or you tell the computer something in English, and it gives you actual code, it's something that you may have a hard time to believe. So this is also a bit challenging. When I was learning, I learned Java 7, but today it's beyond 11, it's also beyond 17. So it means that a person starting today, they're not only going to learn Java 7, but they're going to learn Java 7, learn features of Java 8, Java 9, Java 11, and of course beyond. Though of course most systems will be around 8 and 11, but it means that for those starting, they have a bit of a steeper learning curve than the ones that came before. Though also there are benefits to that because you already have more people that you're going to learn from than when you're learning alone. Now today there are so many people that could be your mentors, yet back then if you had started alone, you might be 2 people. So the rapidly changing ecosystem is also another challenge. So what is the solution to that? I mean, we also now have ChatGPT that's competing with us. We have Bard that's also competing with us. Microsoft also launched something called Copilot. Like when you're in a plane, you're one pilot, usually have a co-pilot. When you're tired, he helps you. So there is also something called Copilot that you can use as, it's called your AI developing partner. More like when you're writing your code, it can suggest to you ideas that you can actually just take up and use. So we have so many tools that are coming up, and then also other people are also joining the ecosystem. But what could be some of the solutions or a way to approach that? Now, one is the fact that still within Africa, we don't have so many people that are still entering tech. So there is still opportunity for a Ugandan, for someone in Africa to enter tech. The second benefit as to why you still stand a good chance to stick around despite the challenges is the fact that paying an African is cheaper than paying a European or paying an American, as Maze has mentioned. If you're asking for money, looking at your standards of living, chances are you asking for half as much as a European is asking for is good for the company, but it's still a win for you. Like you mentioned, 3K. In Uganda, if you're earning 10 million, chances are you're above already a certain strata. However, if it was to be given to European, it will not be serious money, if I'm to put it that way. What does that mean? It means that people are also noticing that we can actually get cheap labor from Africa. Now, I'm not encouraging slavery, but the reality is it's cheaper to get a Ugandan to code for you than it is to get someone else. Now, it's not only Africa, but also Asia. You realize that if you go to YouTube, there are so many Indians that are either teaching you how to code or whatever it is. But also Asia is also giving a lot of a powerhouse for so many developers. And there are so many people that are realizing these people can also write code. And today you hear stories like companies laying off people. And they're laying off those people because they are on-site people. So hiring them comes with so many things they have to pay. They have to pay their insurance, they have to pay their holidays, they have to pay whatsoever it is. So Google could think, it's like, okay, how about we lay off 50 people that are on site because COVID taught us even someone seated home can deliver. So how about this person we've been paying, let's say 10K, we get someone in Africa and pay them 5K. On top of the 10K they're paying this person, they have to give them travel allowance, they have to give them health insurance, whatsoever, but the package is usually big. Here it is someone who, when you give the 5K, half as much as you've been giving, is even more motivated than this other person that was earning more. So there is an opportunity also for Africa, Asia, and all those other countries that are still getting to the middle income status. So with the evolving ecosystem, the truth is you have to just stick around long enough. As Kawesi told me once, he said that software development or software engineering is not about intelligence or being a genius, but it's about consistency. What he meant is you don't have to be the most intelligent person. Most people think about coding and they think this is now math. So they start getting the PTSD from their high school math. They have to differentiate, they have to integrate, they have to do all those sorts of things. Now, those are true for niches like data science, but software development, it's not really that much. Now, when you think about software development, you hear things like, I've learned this programming language, I've learned the other programming language. And the reason they call them languages is because you're actually just learning a language, how to communicate with a computer. Just like you might be a Muganda and you say, I want to learn Lutoro. You want to learn Lutoro such that you can communicate with a Mutoro. So programming is more of learning how to communicate with someone as opposed to you doing a lot of critical thinking. Of course, there is also a need for critical thinking. But these are languages we are learning. No wonder Obama said that if possible, as early as kindergarten, we should have kids already learning to program. Maybe not the high end, but that was one of the things he was always pushing for. Because this is you just learning how to communicate with someone. So you're just learning how do you instruct a computer, for example, to calculate. How do you tell a computer to access the internet? So you're just learning computer language. And so the languages come in so many flavors. There is Java, JavaScript, PHP, I mean, so many of them. So you're just learning a language. So do not think about it as more of learning how to solve problems, though that is also important, but start by thinking about it as learning how to talk to a computer. How do you instruct a computer to do something for you? When you go on your WhatsApp, how is the phone able to know that after you type the text and click on the send, it's able to know that now I need to pick this text, send it to the internet, look for the person, and deliver that message. So this is really you learning how to instruct that. So in the background, there are engineers that sat down, wrote out programs that tell your phone, whenever he clicks this icon, do this. Whenever he clicks on this, then you do that. And that's, of course, the classical computer. Mose brought in quantum computing, which is a bit different, but basically, you're just learning how to instruct a computer. Now that could even go to things like even cars. Today you have cars that you press a button and it's able to also realize what you want and it will give you feedback. So tech also is not only, it's a field that goes into so many other areas. And so complexity, we just need to find a way to be patient with it and stick to the script. Now finally, because of time, I'll just mention about the direction. Now this is also another challenge. Someone will start out on learning and then they reach a point and they are not sure where to continue. The first time I tried to learn how to code was in my 3rd year. Unfortunately for me, I was not with Masereka. Seems the panelists, everyone was with Masereka. I was at Makere, and in my 3rd year, a gentleman came to me, my good friend called Etot. He comes to me with this brilliant idea. Tells me, I have an uncle who is setting up a farm, a law firm. What I want us to do, let us learn how to program, and after we've learned, we go and build for him a system for his law firm. And of course, the idea was very brilliant. And at the time, I didn't know about coding. Now, for him, he knew about it because he was from SEDAT, the engineering college. So they usually, I think, have something in their first years where they tell them about software development. So he came to me, shared with me the idea, which of course was brilliant. And immediately, we got our machines, got the resources, and started. So I started learning C++. I started learning the entire holiday I was learning. After the holiday, I came back. And now when I talk to him, both of us were juniors. So after learning what we had just learned, because I think I'd watched like 30 videos out of the 50 he gave me. When I talked to him, I realized the first 50 were just junior. You just start their fundamentals. I tried looking at the intermediate, there were some 80. And I looked at the advanced, they were also about 100. Now, in view of the Hus had just gone through for the 30, thinking about going another 80 and then another 100, I decided to pause. So, knowing what to do next and why you need to do what you're doing next is also important, and it can be quite disturbing. Someone first sends you to watch a video of 8 hours. You finish it, they tell you, okay. The next one is for 7 hours. You finish it, they're like, okay. The next one is about 12. After that, you get another of 15. The question is, when do I get to now practice what I'm doing? So knowing what to do next is also a bit of a hurdle. And not having a mentor can be even more disturbing. So the solution is talk to your mentors. Most of us, I believe also with Mose, we were learning from the perspective of whatsoever, because we're in the open numerous community, as it has been mentioned. So whenever you'd be in the community and someone mentions something you do not know, then you go back and read it. You come back a second time, you realize there's again something again new. You go back and read it. So we're learning, I don't know what that learning is called, but random learning. You see this, you learn it. You see the other, you learn it. Someone comes and tells you, okay, Java is starting to deteriorate. Try now to consider JavaScript. You first leave this, you go to this. You're still there, someone tells you, know what, data science is the new thing. You first go to Python. Before you know it, you come back. So you end up in a circle. You're learning so many things, but none of it is actually applicable for you, or you're going to actually utilize it. So having a mentor that guides you about learn this, then learn this, then learn that can be time saving. Now I'll give you, in my experience as I've been learning, if you want to join, for example, PNMRS, if you have a book you can write down some of the things I feel are important for you to learn if you're joining OpenMRS, for example. And I wish that there was someone who gave me a similar script to do the same. Now, this is for OpenMRS. You could talk to mentors where you want to join. For example, Edwin, I think, is with infrastructure. The pathway could be different. But in my experience for OpenMRS, I wish someone had told me the first thing that you may need to learn, actually, Java fundamentals. And anyone who has tried to code, that's something that is very important. So Java is a very good language. I'm not promoting it, but it's the one that I'm usually writing in. So Java fundamentals, and these are things you can find on YouTube. These are things you can find on websites, as Nathan mentioned. There was Udemy, but some of the cheap ones, the written versions, is tutorial points. And then there's also, I think, W3 schools. So you can use some of those websites together with YouTube. So Java fundamentals, learn a bit about database management, because all systems, regardless of which system you're working with, you have to know database management. Of course, I encourage you to learn MySQL, because it's a bit standard in so many applications. So learn also MySQL, or SQL for that matter. Then learn about frameworks for Java. And the prominent one right now is Spring. So learn Spring. And together with Spring, there is a library that's also important called Hibernate. Now, that helps you to connect your application together with your database. So Hibernate is also an important library to learn how it works. So with Spring, you can also learn, of course, Spring Boot. And after Spring, you want to also learn a front-end language. And that could be dependent on you. But right now, at least in OpenMRS, React is like the new thing on the block. So learn also React. So those are really about development. Now, some other things you may want to learn on the side that are not directly in OpenMRS are things around infrastructure. So things like how do you start the application itself? But those are not so important at the start. But things like Docker, GitHub, that's where people store their code base. Those are also things for you to learn. So there are also other periphery tools that are also important to learn. But that would be something like a pathway for you to go about. And so you can sit down and ask yourself the question, what can I learn in which given period? So you could say, my Java fundamentals, I'm giving them a month. After that, my database management, also a month. Spring, because it's a bit bulky, maybe 2 months. Database management or Hibernate, maybe 3 weeks. So you could actually have a plan of accomplishing this in a space of 5 to 6 months. And those are some of the boot camps that are out there. So within a space of 6 months, you can actually learn something that you can actually use to do a number of things. And most importantly, with software engineering, you want to start somewhere. So do not wait to be Tesasra Moses. Start by being able to do something that someone can look at and know that you're actually learning and you're able to continue learning. So have also a breakdown with your mentor. How long is it feasibly possible for me to learn this? Break it down and say within 6 months, I should be able to accomplish this and I can start to do this. So that is also important. And because of time, I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you for listening.
Let's clap for Brother Regan again. Thank you so much. Now, like Moses said, you may have come with a different expectation, and we don't want you to go when your expectation has not been attended to. So in the next 30 minutes, we're going to have questions and answers, and then we close. So I would love the mic to move around so that we have the questions. Are there questions? Or we have understood completely, and we are all going to become software engineers? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentations. May God bless you. My question. Direction. I want to put a direction, and I'm looking into how long can I expect the time to put in so that I can probably land on my first job. I wish you'd give it in a perspective of how long it took you. Thank you.
All the questions at once. Yes, Pastor.
All right. Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask, which languages are you guys using, the three of you? And what's special about the MacBooks? What's special about the MacBooks that you are having? What's significant? Thank you.
Next question. Guys, let's ask questions. We are not going to find these guys anywhere like we found them today.
I have two questions. The first question is, how can someone get to know about the boot camps and whatsoever? And then the other question is, how long does it take, like for someone to know that I'm now good to go?
Okay, thank you. And maybe we in the audience have also seen high school students. They may want to know whether this is for them or they have to wait for campus or what. Are they good? Are they ready to go to start learning? Because when we were doing the advertisement, we were actually encouraging parents to send in their young ones here. So basically, that would be good if, Moses, you respond. Any other? Is someone there?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. This question goes to Doc. Can it be done as a part-time career?
There's another one. There's someone here. You can just speak without the microphone.
About the open source, like how can we access the open source stuff? How can we get there? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there's another brother here.
This is specifically for Regan. First of all, I want to thank you for your presentation. It has really shed some light to me. But I want you to elaborate some more on the ecosystem revolution. I'm feeling demoralized. I feel like the AI is doing so much.
Okay, thank you. I think those are the only questions we have. After here, you're going to have time to interact with these guys individually. So if you have a personal question, you'll see them.
I'm also asking that, can ChatGPT help me to start my journey? You know, as in from scratch, to help me from scratch.
Thank you so much. Now I've gone on YouTube. What exactly am I searching? Am I searching coding only? What am I reading?
Okay. And maybe one thing I would say is that I would also encourage all of us to become software engineers because we shall all become rich. Yes. Are those all the questions that we have? I think, yeah.
I'm addressing only a few and then. Okay, maybe I can just address this, a simple question. Someone asked, how long does it take me to do whatever I want? The question is, how long does it take me to do what? Well, to develop a website, 1 week. I can use which template thing is that? WordPress. And 1 week I'm a senior website developer. I mean, you also mentioned something like depending on us. Now, let me give a practical example. Now, our mentors used to tell us, we are not training you to become website developers. Sorry to those who do website, but I mean, that's what our mentors used to tell us. Let me give you a quick example. I did engineering at campus. Nathan did computer science, right? Oh, sorry, IT. We got out of school. We all wanted to be software engineers because we saw someone driving a big car. Me, well, I wanted to become like that someone, but I also wanted to keep broking my land, making some money. It took me 3 years. It took Nathan 1 year to get a job. It took me 3 years to get a job because I was still selling land. So how long it takes depends on how much you want to concentrate and what you want to be. If you really want to work with Google, it can take you 1 year. No. Maybe at least 2 years staying on a computer at least 8 hours a day. Well, you can qualify to work with Google as a junior software developer. Thank you.
Can it extend a little bit? Okay, so yes. Someone asked how long. Yes, he has answered it. And truth be told is, if you want to study it and how long and determine how long it will take, that will depend on how committed you are, how much time you put into it. One can ask, how much does it cost, or how much would it take for me to become a successful entrepreneur? The truth is, whatever profit I get or whatever capital I can get, I have to inject it into the business so that I can maximize the profit. So truth is, he said, okay, and then also to answer the one who asked, how do I get to know that I am good enough for a what? For a job. So for me, I think it has taken me, he said, he roughly mentioned it, but it took me, I'm going to give us a number of things in contrast so that we can understand this better. So it took him 3 years. He was into it before I was, but it took me around 7 months. The difference was the commitments we had. So after my campus, I get to be hit by the reality of life. You need to earn, you need to survive, And the only thing I had, like brother said, I didn't have anything to start a business, And so what I only had was my head and a 1.2 gigahertz processor computer. You can only use it to read PDFs. That's the one I started with. And like I said, watch on Providence, I determined to start programming because the motivation came from a hard life. I mean, I had nothing to do, no capital. What to do now? I have a head, I have a malnourished computer. Someone asked why I'm using Macs, but I didn't start with this. Huh? Every step, every journey begins with one step. So I started with a simple machine that I had. And literally, yourself can start with even a smartphone. Yeah, that's it. Now, how do you know that you are good? Once you've started, you're pursuing it, you're learning. Brother was fearful about the things that are rapidly evolving. Huh? Truth is, even us, we are still learning. Things are evolving. They are running faster than we are running, but we take advantage where we get hooked. Huh? We take advantage of that. So, I can't say you'll be good. The truth is, you'll always be learning. When we started, I said, the thing you know is only what? A drop. There is an ocean. Will you fear to drink the ocean waters? No. You have to drink as much as you can. Yeah? You'll never finish the whole ocean. Now, let me tell you that I didn't get a job because I knew it all. Eh? And most of us, none of us has gotten a job or what to do because they knew it. Actually, one of the other learning platforms is learning on what? On job. Huh? You learn on job, I'm telling you, because someone has mentioned it, that African labor is what? Is cheap. That's the advantage we took. Huh? Because it is cheap, people out there will outsource people who are learning and promising because they are what? They are cheap. An equivalent of us, and they are maybe in those well-to-do countries, won't be employed because they are what? They're expensive. Yes, so you will never be good. You start with what you have, get good mentors who can, if they've seen your progress, can recommend you, and you'll end up learning on what? On job. Actually, what has made us settle into the languages we know, it's because of the jobs we end up doing, because the jobs require us to learn those languages. Should opportunities come and you get more jobs or a different job, you'll still have to, not to unlearn, you'll have to relearn new things. But because you've had a background, it will be easier for you to learn while on job. The truth is, even the senior developers, the senior ones, senior Mose, senior Regan, any senior, they are always what? They're learning. And I'm also actually impressed when I see my seniors as well learning. They will tell you, I don't know that. You even know it better than I do. Yeah? Because learning is something that never stops. Yeah. So success is never final. You fail, but that's not fatal. You have to continue learning. So you'll never be good. That's truth. That's the truth, but you'll always learn, and that's what has kept us moving. So what's so special about the MacBooks you're using? I said I started with what? With a single core. RAM was 1.8 mega, GB. That's way less than anyone's computer here who has. Usually they start from 4 GB. Mine was 1.8. But I started with that. And this comes as you get experience, expertise, and you want things more fast. And definitely with an advantage of having what to do, you'll be able to buy such a what? Such a PC that will help you. So that's why we use Macs. Yeah? They've helped us with our experience. We see it a better tool to use. And then the programming languages we use, I think most of us here do Java programming, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Now, there is more to that. There is Docker, there is Ansible, there is... now, those are programming languages and scripting languages, but there are also frameworks. There are building blocks, but there's also a building itself. Now, those building blocks are what I've just mentioned. Now there are frameworks, which are the buildings themselves, and these always evolve. The underlying principles will never change. They rarely change, actually. They rarely. So if you know JavaScript, or if you know Java, get to know whichever version of which year of Java, get to know that you will use that until, or you almost die, until you stop. You stop programming. So they will never change. What changes are the frameworks, yeah? The buildings, the styles. If you are to look at a building, let's say a church, no churches will be the same, yeah? The buildings will always differ because of preference, because of, you know, a number of factors. So that's why for us here we have used it because our mentor has introduced it to us. The first thing, I think you talked about Mr. Daniel Kayiwa. He was supposed to be here, but because he is a little bit connected and we are able to associate, just like we can associate with each other here, you end up being in tune with what he does and what he knows, right? So Java, that's what Providence has put it in place in our parts. So how to get to know about camps? Now, you can't know until you are in the system. The truth is you can't know until you are in a particular system or ecosystem. Someone talked about how do you also get, I'll also answer that one with the one that says, how do you get to know these open source platforms? Until you are in, now, thank God that you are now in the what? In the system, because most of us here know the gateways to the what? To the systems. Yes, so until you're in the system, then you'll know. Now, thank God that you are part of the system right now. And I will advise us to what? To share. Because you see a candle, whenever, if you get 20 other candles and light the candles using one candle, does its life get shorter? I have a candles filled here, and I pick one candle to candle all of the others, to give them light. Does its life shorten? Does it reduce lightness? No. So truth is, let us share. If we can get, you become actually brighter. It becomes even brighter, the home. So let us learn to share, and by doing so, we are going to improve. The truth is, if you can explain it to someone well, then you understand it well. Yeah, you understand it better. You understand it well. If you can't explain it, someone said, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you even don't understand it. You don't. Okay, so how to get to know about the camps? So how can high school students pursue it? And is it possible? Yes, while in high school, one thing I had yearned to learn was to know how, there are things you can learn in high school. Truth is, when you're on the computer, you're always typing. The first thing I wanted to learn was to learn how to type. You can't do this work when you don't know how to type. And a number of us in high school existed there, but we didn't know how to type, even when we had computer labs. So there are things that can lead you to understand your career in the future by doing what is present around you, the activities that you can do that surround you. If you're in high school and you can access a computer lab, yes, that's a good tick. And you can utilize your time in school learning these fundamentals that help you in your careers. Typing, getting to know. They teach us these things in high school. What's a program? What's software? What are the categories of a hardware system? There's an arithmetic logic. If you have gone through high school, there are those things that are fundamental and still carry over even into your career life. So we can learn. I think I had a number to answer here, but let me give chance to my other co-presenter to answer them.
Just briefly about that, to add something about languages. Now, in general, we are full-stack software developers here. I mean, I can develop anything you bring across me. I mean, any language, I can learn anything. Oh, reason being, if you get to know about these languages, they're what we call low-level languages and high-level languages. Well, low-level languages are more closer to what the computer understands, zeros, and high-level languages are more closer to human language. Now, in high-level languages, we have things like Java and the rest. But even in high-level languages, there are those that are more higher than others. So some languages are lower than others among the high-level languages. Does that make sense? For example, things like C, C++, Java, they're a little bit more lower. So today, generally, especially campus students, they tend not to like things that are more harder, like Java. Well, because you write much, it's more harder. So they like more simpler, higher level languages, right? So you end up, for example, when you start coding with maybe, these are newer languages, maybe, okay, Python, maybe, just an example, or Python, and maybe JavaScript, it's harder for you to learn the lower level languages. I mean, they're all high, but I mean, those are lower than maybe Python. Maybe, I would say Java is a little bit lower than Python, right? Now, if I start coding in Java, that means I can learn any new language that come across, because I started in what many call hard and, right? I mean, I started with what most people are uncomfortable with. Well, that's why we are full stack. Anything you bring, I develop. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the questions. Maybe I'll start with one of the ecosystem evolution being scary. We have ChatGPT and we have all these different things. I'll give you a scenario. When Microsoft was initially going to launch its Microsoft packages, they included things like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, and all those other things. And to believe that the people of that day were like we today, as we see, ChatGPT. Many people that were using typewriters must have been scared that their jobs are going. And indeed, it was true they were going. However, with the coming of such packages, they instead created new jobs, yes, and opportunities. So the evolution of technology, it's very true, it's going to cut off some people. However, it's going to also create a new niche for other people. So that's also important to always keep in mind. What you should ask yourself is, how do I go with the current trend? And of course, you'll see so many numerous videos. Is it still profitable to learn Java in 2023? Is it still profitable? The truth is, you may also find people that will relegate some of these languages. Now, like Java, things like, he has mentioned that they're a bit low level, and the newer ones are a bit more shiny. Go speak about Python is not very new, but it's also a bit shiny. React, Node, these are new things that are shiny, and people are jumping onto them. So the trend seems like they are going up. However, there is a reason certain low-level languages still exist. And the reason is because they've been battle-tested. These languages, they're using to build enterprises for governments, for armies, for some of the financial institutions like banks, because they've been battle tested to be secure. So do not be discouraged about the what some call older languages. Now, like for example, I started by telling you about C++ and C. I learned it back then, and today it's not easy for someone starting to code to learn C or C++. However, I have a friend who recently told me he's going to start working with Microsoft. And that's not something you're going to do by maybe just learning React, because Microsoft is sitting on C and C++. Of course, also a bit of Java, but that's their foundation. So you'll find certain companies, especially the lucrative ones. Lucrative companies are not usually using the new shiny things, no. You find people like, let's say, car companies like Mercedes-Benz. It's unlikely that the infrastructure is sitting on these new languages that have just been around for 5 years, because there are so many things that could go wrong. However, they can trust their legacy frameworks because they know them so well. So that's also another thing. Do you want to learn to start working for startups? Because also startups love that. A company that is having, let's say, yearly returns of 20 million, chances are high they want simpler languages because they're easy to deploy and maintain. However, for an established company, say for example, if Ministry of Health or Ministry of Education wanted to build a system, they have the money to put their software on whatsoever server they want because they can afford it. So it also depends where do you want to go. So for startups where you can learn within 2 months, learn these simple languages, JavaScript and React. Now, they are not so simple because there are also people that are senior in them. However, they are simple in the sense that you can easily learn it and do something with it. However, the job market may not be as lucrative. So the harder are good because fewer people are coming to that niche. So it means you have opportunity to fare there better. I don't know if that tries to explain. But also the other thing that I was saying is, with new advancements, there are new opportunities that are coming up in as much as some others are also going to be phased. So keep out an ear to what is trending and what is new that you need to know. People to tell you that could be your mentors, but also you can just read about that. So do not be afraid of ChatGPT or those other tools. The other example I wanted to give was that of Google. I can imagine people that had access to Google in the 2000s, early 2000s. I think if they were students, they must have started thinking, why do I need to go to school if I can Google and get whatever information I want? But time has proved that there is still a sense in which a school is important. So Google came and revolutionized how we access information. And well, people that had physical libraries are no longer in the market as much. However, it created a new avenue for online libraries. So while one thing seems to be phasing away, there is a new one that will come. So the knowledge you're going to learn with learning these languages is still very important. ChatGPT can build simple things like someone mentioned, like a website. It can easily do that. However, if you're building a system that has complexity to it, what we would call enterprise systems, there's just no way ChatGPT is going to do that because there are so many factors that come in there. And ChatGPT, if you realize, it's actually riding on previous information. So what it's been learning on is what it uses. Now, the benefit with the human mind is that we don't just work with knowledge we acquired. The fact that we can make mistakes, we have the opportunity to discover new things. So ChatGPT can go so far in its creation, but still the human element is still important to guide ChatGPT to where it should go next. So these AI machines are coming, but there's still a need for humans. The difference is we may no longer need as many to do a certain work as it was previously. So do not be worried about the evolution. Jump in there. You're going to learn fundamental things that are still going to be important for other things. Let me answer maybe 2 or more questions and we'll get to go. So can ChatGPT help? Definitely ChatGPT can help. You could even ask it, what are steps for me to maybe land a job in this field? And it will actually list them for you. So ChatGPT definitely can help, but also other resources as I mentioned. The other is, what should I search for on YouTube? Now, 2 things I would recommend. 1, searching for the specific material you want. Things like I've mentioned, for example, a breakdown. You want to learn fundamentals of Java. You can do that. Sometimes you may want to use more than 1 video because different teachers, just like we presented, all of us have a different style of presenting. So you may also want to find the one you're most comfortable with. So do not be afraid of checking out different people. Have what you want, ask it. The other thing to also look at might be encouragement. There are also some videos that are not about the tech, but they talk about the things we're discussing today. For example, you're a person who has been in accounting. You could try to find a video of someone who was in accounting and then transitioned into software engineering, and they share with you the experience. If you're an accountant, it will make sense. Me as a medical doctor, it makes sense when I listen to a doctor and how they got where they are getting. A teacher could also try to check out someone who was in education and what was their journey, what were the experiences and what were the mistakes. Because if you learn about mistakes, you can easily jump over them. There is no point in you struggling the same way that we struggled or other people struggled, yet they have solutions to that. So YouTube, that's also something important, what to search. Then the other thing are podcasts. There are quite a number of podcasts that focus on tech. So when you want also encouragement, listen to some podcasts that describe how someone moved through the journey. They'll tell you certain experiences and things they wish they did not do. So that is also important. Accessing open source, the way it suggests, it's open. Just go in there and do your thing. And open source, of course, is becoming very prominent for so many reasons. But decide on any open source platform you want to go to and join it. I wanted to also add something in my experience. While I write code, I also do something called implementation. It's what I was doing previously. Now, this is also another niche that might be of interest to you. So while you're learning to code, another good place to consider is implementing. Now, what does that mean? Now, implementation, it's a whole big science behind it. How do you build a system? How do you give it to people so that people can utilize it? Recently, we had a rollout of the e-giving system for the church. However, when the system was being rolled out, there was a need to prepare people to use the system. So there is a need for also, whatsoever system we build, we need to have people that understand the system and understand the psychology of people to link the two of them to use it. So it could go beyond the users, it could go to the client who is asking for the system. So implementation science is also something to consider. What does it mean? It means while you're learning how to develop, you might also want to bias yourself more on a system that is in your niche. Personally, I thrive in OpenMRS because I'm a doctor. And so I understand the domain better than someone who is not a doctor. So you might also want to interest yourself in systems that do what you've learned or that what you know. For example, accountants, things like Odoo, things like Tally what? That one. You could also interest yourself in such systems. Education, there are quite a number there, but one of them is DHIS. So you could also, as you're learning these other things, try to also learn about how these systems work internally. What are their workflows? OpenMRS, you could learn how do they actually create a patient in the system? How do they fill clinical forms? How do they do their reporting? Now that cuts across all different systems. You just need to know where you are, but that's also something that could also get you a living. So while you're learning how to code, you could also bias yourself there. Because ultimately, there will actually be some people that won't become senior software developers, but they'll become good business analysts. When you tell them their problem, they go to the market, they recommend to you what is good for you, and they help you to roll that out. So just do not think about writing the code, but also this system being shipped out. An example is how you use, let's say, WhatsApp. You see, WhatsApp, most of us might know how to do an audio and maybe send an image. And there could be some people that do not know that within WhatsApp, you can share your location. Now, an implementer is a person who knows about all the features of the system, and they can help you utilize that system better. So I wanted to just add that in also, and maybe I'll answer one more question, and then I'll sit. So the last one I could talk about is, can I part-time while writing code? Now, part-timing is not bad, but it's a question of part-time it in view of which other job. Now, personally, I'm a medical doctor. I have my license. I can go and practice. But it's a question of, can the person employing me in their facility pay me, even if I'm to say half of what I make if I'm writing code? Is a good question. Chances are, I would rather stay coding than do a job that's paying me not even a third of what I'm making. When you're coding, most times you realize that most of the coding jobs are hourly paid as opposed to monthly basis, like it is in Uganda. So Uganda, it doesn't matter whether you come at 5 in the morning and leave 7 in the evening, you pay the same with someone who comes at 9 unless up to 5. However, with coding, it's more of hours. You agree on a rate per hour. I want to be paid this number of dollars for, say, this amount of time that I spend. So it's a bit challenging for someone who has, let's say, an IT job with an external entity to say that they want to part-time on it in view of this as full-time. Of course, you can part-time as you're starting out, but you quickly realize that investing your time here might be more beneficial than actually part-timing. So the jobs that you've been doing or the careers you've been pursuing, they're still relevant to you. Like I said, personally as a doctor, I can still treat. Maybe not as a full-time thing, but I could decide to do it more of a volunteer thing as opposed to an official job. So I could do medical camps, I could do free services to offer, I can do those other things for free, and then I do this as a main focus. So you can also do that, but chances are high if you're developing and you become senior that you can't say that I'm going to part-time on it. Most likely it will become your full-time job. Then the final question, maybe to also add my voice, how long to get a job? Personally, it took me about a year and maybe 2 months from what I would say 0 to being able to do something. And still that comes back to your personal drive. Different people have different dreams. There are people that look at code. For example, me when I was learning it at the time, when I looked at developing, it wasn't a question of whether I want to practice or I want to develop. It was a simple answer of, I don't want to practice, I want to develop. So that pushed me in the sense that I put in my entire soul, if you get the science. I put in my everything because I wanted to do that. It could also be that while I was saying that you could use 1 month to learn fundamentals, someone could come and challenge me and say I could learn those fundamentals in 2 weeks. That is still back to you. How quick do you want to get to where you're getting? And then how much time do you want to devote to whatsoever you're devoting in? So it could be 5 years, like Moses said. He was doing his side hustles. It took him 3 years. And like Nathan said, Moses started coding, or at least in the sense of getting to open MRS, before Nathan did. And yet Nathan took 7 months, yet his mentor took 3 years. So it's back to how quick do you want to get where you're getting, how much time are you devoting to it, and how committed are you about it. If it's still more of, I could try it, and if it works well and good, definitely you won't outpace someone who has decided, my eggs are in this basket. Chances are they're going to get there before you get there. And with those few words, I'll ask Mose maybe to comment about the high schoolers. What could be in for it, especially for Open MRS? There's something around Open MRS as well.
Okay, thank you again. Now, well, ideally, for example, let me just compare with our colleagues in maybe like outside countries, US. Well, people in US start coding as young as 3. No, not 3. I mean, okay, as young as they can understand anything. Well, the difference is that I think somehow I think it's a mindset. So somehow in Uganda, I mean in our society, when you're still in high school, you think you're young. Well, you think you still have to live at your father's house. I mean, but I mean you can at any stage of education. I mean, at any age you can always start out. I mean, for example, when you're in high school, you can always use your holidays. But the problem is that you won't really be very consistent. But it's okay. You can always start out with the theories and. As long as you can get more time, maybe like in your vacations, Form 4 vacations, Form 6 vacations, you can always be more consistent with your learning. So at any time you think you can want to learn this, I mean, it's always fine. Yeah.
Just 1 minute. I wanted to let us know that I think none of us has papers that they take. Hey, I'm applying for a job. So what I'm trying to say is, if I've looked at the job market and what they're looking at is they're looking at your capacity to deliver. How willing are you? How open-minded are you? How willing are you to learn? Because the truth is, you may be even employed to something you've never tried yourself, but because you're open-minded and you're willing to learn, you get the job. Yeah, and then none of us is there yet, I would say. Every one of us is still improving. Yeah. So it's a challenge to all of us that as soon as the idea is gotten birth to in the mind, you pursue it until, like he said, you know that all your eggs are in that. You have no other alternative. Then there you'll be sure you're heading to something. Yeah.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to all our facilitators. Yes, I have two colleagues that I completed school with. Then for them, they went into tech. And one of them is here, one of them is in Germany. And none of them is earning less than $5,000 per month. So it's like they are living in the future already. Mose did not, he feared to comment on how much averagely you will be able to earn. Though I wanted him to comment, I wanted him to say it to motivate someone who is here. And he decided to dodge the question. Kindly, just shortly, as we close.
Okay, shortly. So I'm just going to use maybe the US standards, right? Okay. Well, okay, we have like internships, right? Okay, we have mentorship programs, what you call internship, right? So a student can be paid maybe $500 to $1,000 a month. I mean, depending on which program. So that's around maybe a student. Sorry, I'm a student. Eh? not a junior developer. A student, maybe two to three something. A student. Maybe a junior developer can go maybe 1.5 to 2. I'm using the US standards, right? Maybe that's around maybe 7.5, 7. Junior developer, mid-level, maybe around 3 to 4K. That's around 9, 14. Senior developer, depending on which organization, you can go as high as you can go, maybe above 5K to whatever amount. 5K is around maybe 17, 16, 18, to whatever amount, depending on which organization and which experience, you have. So I think that's a little bit, okay.
Thank you. When he's talking about 5K, he's not meaning this 5K of Uganda. He's meaning the $5K dollars. Yes.
Just on that note, the truth is when you're starting, you earn way less than you are working for. Yeah. That's the actual truth. You're working 8 hours a day. Okay, you're working nearly 16 hours a day. Now let's say 12 hours a day, because you need to sleep, you need to rest. You end up earning something around 500. That's way much for someone Ugandan here. 1.8, 1.7 to me is, you may feel satisfied, right? But with time, as you earn your experience, you get even to know how to demand for a salary. You know what you're working for, and you know the amount you're now supposed to what? To start earning. So that comes with time. What I would encourage us is, when you are looking at such careers, you don't look at the money. Yeah. Huh? That will come. And in a short time after, it will come. The beauty with it is, for those who earn less than what they're working for, within a little time will begin earning more than what they are working for. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will invite our Director for Education, Mrs. Joyce Sekatawa, to come and give a vote of thanks and a closing prayer as we close our session today.
Thank you very much, our guests. We really appreciate. And I believe, actually me personally, I've been motivated. So I was wondering if people my age can also join now. Okay. So we, as Emma's Better Living Center, we have a lot of projects that are ongoing. You can donate. Anyone who is a well-wisher, you see the things that we are doing. We are really impacting community. And it's one of the churches that is highly growing at a rapid speed. And you're also welcome to come and worship with us on Sabbath. We have services here and very good programs. Allow me thank again Mr. Masereka, Dr. Rahire, the media team, the gentleman right there, Mr. Suna, very active member in the education committee department. As you are aware, I'm Joyce Sekatawa, and I head the department here at Emma's HDA Church. And I thank God for having enabled us to put up something like this. This is the second seminar we have done. Before we did the aerospace engineering, and now we have done the software engineering. Hopefully next time we shall have maybe the medical doctors and the lawyers and all other courses, catering and so on. So as we conclude this, this day, I kindly request all of you to humble yourselves so that we have a word of prayer. Let's pray. Kind and loving Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the wonderful program that you have enabled us to do. We thank you for all the leadership that took part in organizing. We thank you, most important of all, for our guests that came in to share their experiences with us. May you bless them in a special way, and may you continue guiding them in everything that they do. We also want to put each and every person that came in this morning to listen to the software engineering seminar. We kindly request that each and everyone may be able to pursue that they have understood today. At this very moment, we'd like to ask for your protection as we go back to our places of residences or our places of work, and continue to guide us in all ways possible. I've prayed all this, believing and trusting in your Son, Jesus. I would hand to Mr. Maserati.
Thank you. Okay, so we are done, and we're going to, we actually have a WhatsApp group for career, for those who want to follow up on different, it was created when we had the Aerospace Engineering Career Day. So I hope when you registered, you put your WhatsApp numbers. So that is what we are going to add to the group. All the information that they have shared, even the one that Edwin wanted to share, we'll be able to share it to you guys through that. You can get contacts from these guys as we go out, have a one-on-one with them. God bless you.